Welcome to the Southwest West Central Service Cooperative's Back to School Paraprofessional Training. This training was created by the Special Education Administration team to help you feel prepared and supported in your role. Special education. A wide range of disabilities may affect the students in your school. Some students with disabilities require specifically designed instruction to make educational progress. When a comprehensive evaluation identifies that a student has a disability and needs specifically designed instruction to make educational progress, they qualify for special ed, and an IEP is developed. Special education supports students with a wide range of disabilities. Some students need specifically designed instruction to make educational progress. If a student is evaluated and found to both have a disability and need special instruction, they qualify for special education services. This leads to the creation of an individualized education program, or IEP. Students and their families must go through an educational evaluation process in order to receive special education services. This evaluation looks at the suspected areas of delay or disability and must address Minnesota's eligibility criteria in one of the 13 disability categories. The goal of special education and related services is to help students become as independent as possible. As students make progress on their IEP goals and objectives, special education services, including paraprofessional support, should gradually decrease. That's why schools regularly review and adjust services based on student growth and changing needs. 3 steps to special education. 1. Pre-referral. Must conduct interventions in general ed prior to referral. 2. Evaluation. A team takes a comprehensive look at the needs of the student. 3. Develop an IEP, individual education program. If eligible, an IEP is developed for that student. There are 3 main steps before a student receives special education services. Step 1. Pre-referral. Interventions happen in general education first. Step 2. Evaluation. A team reviews all the student's needs. 3. IEP. If the student qualifies, a plan is developed just for them. What is an individual education program IEP? Individual education program. Developed by a team including the child's parent, teachers, administration, and supporting school staff. The team meets annually, at a minimum, to review and update the IEP. Placement, services, academic and behavioral goals, accommodations and modifications needed, paraprofessional support and duties, positive behavioral support plan if needed. An individual education program, or IEP, is created by a team including the child's parents, teachers, administrators, and support staff. It is reviewed at least once a year. It outlines placement, goals, services, accommodations, and paraprofessional duties. Some IEPs also include behavior support plans. Paraprofessional defined. A district employee who is primarily engaged in direct instruction with one or more pupils for instructional activities, physical or behavior management, or other purposes under the direction of a regular education or special education teacher or related services provider. Minnesota Statute 3525.0200, Subpart 10A. Related service provider, speech language pathologist, SLP, occupational therapist, OT, physical therapist, PT, deaf hard of hearing, DHH, developmental adaptive physical education, DAPE. Paraprofessionals are district employees who work directly with students under the guidance of a licensed teacher or related service provider. You might support instruction, behavior, physical needs, or communication. Related service providers include speech-language pathologist, occupational therapist, and physical therapist, teachers of deaf and hard of hearing, and more. You are a very important role model for your students. You'll be with them day in and day out, consistently showing them how to be learners, thinkers, and communicators. Whether directly or indirectly, you're teaching students how to solve problems, ask questions, advocate for themselves, study, interact with others, and much more. Are you ready for the challenge? We believe in you. You'll be great. 13 Minnesota disability categories. 1. Autism spectrum disorders, ASD. 2. Blind visually impaired, BVI. 3. Deaf-blind, DB. 4. Deaf and hard of hearing, DHH. 5. Developmental cognitive disabilities, DCD. 6. Developmental delay, DD. 7. Emotional or behavioral disorders, EBD. 8. Other health disabilities, OHD. 9. Physically impaired, PI. 10. Severely multiply impaired, SMI. 11. Specific learning disability, SLD. 12. Speech or language impairments, SL. 13. Traumatic brain injury, TBI. In Minnesota, there are 13 categories under which a student might qualify for special education. These include autism, deaf-blindness, developmental delay, emotional or behavioral disorders, physical impairments, and much more. Each category comes with unique needs that affect how students learn and interact. Developmental delay, DD. Age birth to 3. Delay in one area of development: motor, cognition, social emotional, adaptive, communication. Age 3 to 6. Delay in 2 or more areas of development, same as above. Teacher licensure. Early childhood special ed. Developmental delay applies to young children. For birth to age 3, a delay in one area may qualify. For ages 3 to 6, delays must appear in at least 2 areas. These areas include motor, cognition, communication, social emotional, or adaptive skills. Autism spectrum disorder. Autism spectrum disorders, ASD, means a range of neurodevelopmental disorders in which a child exhibits impaired development in social interaction and language, and repetitive or a restrictive range of activities. They affect up to 1.5 million Americans and is the nation's fastest growing area of development disabilities. Autism is often referred to as a spectrum disorder, meaning that the behavioral symptoms and characteristics can present themselves in a wide variety of combinations, from mild to severe. Although autism is defined by a certain set of behaviors, children and adults can exhibit any combination of behaviors in any degree of severity. For example, 2 children, both with a diagnosis of autistic disorder, can act very differently from one another, demonstrate different needs, and thus may respond to interventions differently. Autism affects how a person communicates, interacts, and responds to their environment. It's called a spectrum because it shows up differently for every person. Your role is to understand the child's unique needs and work with the team to provide support based on those needs. Developmental cognitive disability. Developmental cognitive disability, DCD, is defined as a condition that results in an intellectual, functioning significantly below average and is associated with concurrent defects in adaptive behavior that require special education and related services. DCD, mild to moderate, low functional skills, and below average intellectual functioning. DCD, severe to profound, extremely low functional skills, and significantly below average intellectual functioning. DCD is a disability that affects a student's intellectual and adaptive functioning. It can be found mild to profound. Students may need help with thinking skills, problem solving, and daily living tasks. Support should focus on helping them gain independence. Emotional or behavioral disorders. Students who may be considered for special education under the Emotional or Behavioral Disorders (EBD) category need specialized services for emotional or behavioral supports for a wide range of complex and challenging emotional or behavioral conditions. Medical, biological, and psychological conditions as well as genetic dispositions can affect these students' ability to learn and function in school. Students with emotional or behavioral disorders may struggle with school behavior or mental health. They need support that helps them feel safe and successful in the classroom. This might involve counseling, structured routines, and positive relationships. Other health disabilities. Other health disability means having limited strength, endurance, vitality, or alertness, including a heightened or diminished alertness to environmental stimuli with respect to the educational environment that is due to a broad range of medically diagnosed chronic or acute medically diagnosed health conditions, including attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, that adversely affect a pupil's educational performance. This category includes students with chronic health conditions like ADHD, diabetes, epilepsy, or anxiety. These students may have limited energy, alertness, or attention. Paraprofessionals may support behavior, learning, or other health-related needs in these cases. Specific Learning Disability, SLD. Severe underachievement in response to usual classroom instruction. Discrepancy between ability and achievement. Information processing disorder. 8 different areas including basic reading skills, reading comprehension, reading fluency, math calculation, math problem solving, written expression, oral expression, and listening comprehension. SLD includes such conditions as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. Students with specific learning disabilities may struggle in areas like reading, writing, or math, even if they try very hard. These students often need instruction that matches how they learn. With support, they can build confidence and succeed. Paraprofessional tip. Get to know the students you serve and the disabilities they experience. The more you understand the unique challenges they face, the better prepared you are to provide appropriate support and responses to their learning, social, and functional behaviors in your role. The more you learn about the students you work with, the better you'll be at helping them. Get to know their challenges and strengths so you can respond in ways that support their learning and growth. Para roles and responsibilities. Directly or indirectly assist and support the provision of services to students with disabilities in order to help them access the general education curriculum in as independent a manner as possible. The role and assignments of a paraprofessional are not defined by a particular student. setting, or program, but rather by the student's needs as determined by the IEP. May vary based upon specific assignment, may change anytime based on administration or teacher examination or re-examination of student need. Follow the chain of command established by your school district. Teachers and paraprofessionals are partners in education. You work together to provide the best possible learning experience for each student. As a special education paraprofessional, your role is to assist the teacher, helping them make the most of their expertise and instructional time. While the teacher is responsible for guiding students toward achieving their individualized goals, you help implement those plans. You do this under the direction and supervision of the teacher. For paraprofessionals to provide direct instruction, the teacher must design the instruction, train you in how to deliver it, and monitor how it's working for the student. Because you are a trusted and skilled team member, you may be asked to share your insights, ideas, and even help create materials or adaptations for the students. You might support instruction designed by the special educator, assist with physical needs following therapist guidance, or help small groups of students practice and reinforce skills, all under the direction of licensed staff. The next few slides will walk you through examples of how paraprofessionals support students in these meaningful and varied ways. Roles and responsibilities continued. Supporting academic development. Supporting social integration. Supporting functional skills. Addressing and assisting with medical needs. Serving as a communication link. Paraprofessionals support students in many important ways. Your responsibilities will depend on each student's needs and their IEP, but here are some of the most common areas where you may help. Academic. Carry out instructional programs and lessons as developed by the supervising teacher. Assist individual students or small groups with activities assigned by the teacher. Reinforce concepts and skills in a variety of settings. Keep students focused on task. Implement assistive technology tools. Use accommodations listed in the IEP as directed by the special education teacher. Redirect behavior and follow behavior management plans. Encourage interaction between students with disabilities and their peers. Provide strategies to peers to promote positive social interactions. Support the development of communication skills. Implementing instructional procedures and activities and follow-up. Follow-up lesson plans to support student learning. Provide review of previous learning and reteach when necessary. Ask frequent questions and check responses for understanding. Think out loud and model steps. Guide student practice and provide positive and constructive feedback. Provide scaffolds for difficult tasks. Provide examples. Provide positive and constructive feedback to guide students' learning. Follow the lesson plans provided by the teacher. Use strategies like reviewing content, modeling steps, asking questions, and giving feedback. Use positive reinforcement and scaffolding to help students feel successful and stay engaged. Role and clarification. Supervising teacher. Designs and implements behavior and intervention plans. Communicates with parents. Responsible for discipline. Attends in-service meetings. Provides curriculum, accommodations, modifications that allow students to participate in general curriculum. Paraprofessional. Monitors and reinforces student performance during behavioral interventions. Communicates information to supervising teacher, case manager. Disciplines students following behavior management techniques set up by the supervising teacher. Attends paraprofessional development trainings. Constructs materials to support accommodations designed by teachers. Paraprofessionals are vital team members. You should know your role, follow directions from licensed staff, and communicate regularly. Your flexibility and professionalism make a big impact. Role clarification. Supervising teacher. Administers assessments and identifies educational needs. Plans instructional programming, create lesson plans. Grades student performance. Takes complete responsibility for each new activity. Revises instructional program. Designs instructional materials. Paraprofessional. May be asked to observe student and collect data on specific academic or behavioral tasks. Assists with planning process. Implements lesson plans per teacher guidance. Checks and scores student work. Reinforces and reviews concepts and skills. Monitors student progress and reports to supervising teacher. Constructs materials designed by supervising teachers. This is a sample list of guidelines to give you an idea of what your role may include. Please talk with your supervising teacher and discuss any of these roles that you may not be clear about to avoid any misinterpretation of your duties. Paraprofessional expectations. Be involved and active. Be conscientious of the model or example you are demonstrating. Use positive encouragement with students. Support school rules and goals. Be observant of students and aspects of their school day. Demonstrate knowledge of the curriculum content for classes in which you assist. Be active, supportive, and positive. Know the curriculum and school rules. Be observant of student needs and responsive to feedback. Professionalism and a positive attitude go a long way in creating a great environment for students. Paraprofessional expectations. Accept feedback with openness. Possess physical and emotional health necessary for effective job performance. Work cooperatively with all school personnel. Demonstrate a warm and receptive attitude toward all students. Express the value you place on education and share it often. Demonstrate professionalism. Be flexible. To be effective in your role, it's important to accept feedback with openness, seeing it as an opportunity to grow. Maintain the physical and emotional health needed to perform your job well. Work cooperatively with all school personnel to create a positive team environment. Show a warm and receptive attitude toward every student, fostering trust and connection. Consistently express the value you place on education. Share your passion often. Demonstrate professionalism in all your interactions and responsibilities. Stay flexible and adaptable to meet the changing needs of your school community. These attitudes and behaviors lay the foundation for success and positive impact. Behavior management strategies. The overall purpose of behavior management is to aid students in displaying behaviors conducive to learning. The goal of positive behavior management should be to teach and encourage academic and social behaviors that are appropriate for the classroom situation. The goal of behavior management is to teach students how to act in ways that support their learning. Focus on promoting positive behaviors instead of just reacting to the negative ones. Behavior prevention. Daily schedule. Classroom rules. Respect for students. Appropriate expectations. Model good behavior. Be observant. Preparation. Assist in developing peer relationships. Reinforce a positive self-concept in the student. Watch for things that promote or interfere with student learning. Allow adequate response time. The key to successfully managing student behavior, whether with individuals or small groups, is prevention. Proactive strategies reduces the chances of challenging behaviors before they even begin. Your role as a paraprofessional is critical in helping create a structured, respectful, and positive environment. Work closely with your supervising teacher to discuss how you can support students and keep the classroom running smoothly. Together, you help provide the best possible learning environment. Here are some specific ways for prevention. Follow a consistent daily schedule. Students feel more secure when they know what to expect. This reduces anxiety and the likelihood of behavior issues. Support classroom rules and expectations. Be consistent and fair, reinforcing the same expectations the teacher sets. Demonstrate respect for students. Show students that they are valued and cared for. Encourage independence. Help students only as much as needed. Believe in their ability to learn and grow. Model good behavior. Your actions set the tone. Be respectful, positive, and professional in all settings. Be observant. Notice when students are making good choices and let them know you see it. Be prepared. Know your schedule and be on time to help students feel secure and supported. Help build peer relationships. Support students in both special education and general education settings, like the lunchroom, hallway, or playground, to connect with peers in meaningful ways. Promote positive self-concept. Speak positively about students. Assume good intentions and encourage kindness and problem solving. Watch for what helps or hinders learning. Share observations with the teacher to support student success. Allow adequate response time. Many students with disabilities need extra time to think and respond. If rushed, they may feel overwhelmed or frustrated. Be patient and give them space to process. Preventing behavior issues starts with trust, promoting independence, and creating a calm, structured environment. And you play a big role in that every day. Restrictive procedures. Restrictive procedures are when a child with a disability is physically held or put in a separate space, seclusion, during an emergency at a Minnesota school. Restrictive procedures are only done in emergency situations. You may only participate in the use of restrictive procedures if you are trained and certified in a crisis prevention strategy, such as CPI or PCM. You should never engage in a restrictive procedure by yourself. Restrictive procedures like physical holds or seclusion are only done in emergencies and only by trained staff. If you're not certified, do not participate in these actions. Always follow your district's policies. Confidentiality. Privacy of information, including student name. Protection of records. Procedures established for disclosure of information. Sensitive information in files. Legal obligation to protect. FERPA. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. PPRA, Protections of Pupil Rights and Amendment. Ethical Obligation to Protect. Confidentiality is one of the most critical and important parts of your job as a paraprofessional. As part of your role, you will have access to personal and sensitive information about students and their families. It is essential to remember that both the child and their family have the right to expect that this information will remain private. It should only be shared with school staff or other authorized professionals who will need the information to support the child's health, safety, education, or overall well-being. Confidentiality is not optional. It is required by federal laws, state regulations, and school policies. As a paraprofessional, you have a legal responsibility to protect privacy rights of students and their families, especially those receiving special education services. Only staff who are directly responsible for designing, delivering, or supporting a student's educational or related services should have access to any personal information. Just like teachers and administrators, paraprofessionals may have access to test results, both formal and informal, student behavior in classrooms and school settings, academic progress, and family background or circumstances. You must never discuss this information with other staff who are not involved in the student's program or with friends, neighbors, or others in the community, even if they ask out of curiosity or concern. Remember, protecting a student's privacy is about respect, trust, and following the law. When in doubt, don't share, and ask your supervising teacher or administrator for guidance. Confidentiality. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. Always ask yourself, what information would you want discussed with others regarding your child? What would you like said about yourself as a parent? What would you like said about your family, your values, your lifestyle? The law applies to all schools that receive funds under an applicable program of the U.S. Department of Education. Examples of FERPA violations would include the disclosure of the following particulars to third parties: a student's social security number, a student's grades, an academic evaluation of a student, medical records of a student such as vaccination records and attendance records. What if confidentiality is violated? Students and families can be hurt. Trust can be lost. Employees can lose jobs. School districts can be sued. Breaching confidentiality can hurt students and families. It damages trust and can result in serious consequences, including job loss or legal action. Confidentiality pointers. Avoid using names if you are asked about your job. Suggest questions about a student are best directed to the case manager or building principal. Do not share other student names or information regarding their programs with parents during IEP meetings, conferences, or informal conversations. Information regarding specific students and programs should not be shared in the lunchroom, staff lounge, office areas, in the community, or any other setting. As a paraprofessional, it's important to remember only staff who need to know should be given information about a student. That includes anything related to their academics, behavior, health, or family circumstances. Even though paraprofessionals and parents are on the same team, you should not be the one sharing updates or information about a student's progress. That's the case manager's job. If a parent asks you how their child is doing, here's a polite and professional response you can use. Their case manager can answer that for you. You can say it kindly and with a smile. Most of the time, parents are just making friendly conversation. Be Minnesota nice and change the subject to something casual, like the weather. Also remember, don't share student names, program details, or personal information in public areas like the lounge, office, hallway, or community spaces. Don't share information with other staff who are not part of the student's support team. Always follow the chain of command. The big takeaway: stop and think before you speak. If you're never unsure, ask your supervising teacher or the case manager first. Mandated reporting. Legally required to report suspected abuse or neglect. The law requires that a person who believes a child is or has been maltreated make the report to law enforcement or child protection. Anyone who reports child abuse or neglect in good faith is immune from any civil or criminal liability. The reporter's name is confidential, accessible only upon consent of the reporter by court order. If you're unsure of what to do, work with your supervising teacher, school counselor, or building principal. It is not your responsibility to figure out what really happened. If you suspect, you must report. If you suspect a child is being abused or neglected, you must report it immediately. You don't need proof. Reporting protects students and helps families get needed support. If you're unsure, talk to your supervising teacher or principal. Mandated reporting. What to report? A mandated reporter must report physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect to a child when the reporter knows of an incident or has a reason to believe, suspects, that a child has been abused or neglected within the past 3 years. When to report? A report must be made immediately, orally within 24 hours, followed by a written report within 72 hours. You must report suspected abuse within 24 hours and follow up in writing within 72 hours. Report physical abuse, sexual abuse, or neglect that has occurred within the last 3 years. If you suspect harm, you must act. Mandated reporting. Why report? To prevent harm to a child, to assist families in receiving needed services, to disrupt or terminate a cycle of maltreatment. It is the law because you are a mandated reporter. What information is necessary to report? Name of the offender, if known. Name of alleged victim, if known. Nature and extent of maltreatment. Name and address of the reporter for mandated reporters. Reporting protects children and breaks cycles of harm. When you report, include the names of those involved, if known, the nature of the harm, and contact info as a mandated reporter. Vulnerability. Vulnerability means being defenseless to threats of safety. Vulnerability is also viewed as a high probability of a negative outcome or of an expected welfare loss above a socially accepted norm, which results from risky or uncertain events and the lack of appropriate means to deal with them. Vulnerability leaves one at risk of exposure to stressful situations. Vulnerability means being at risk, whether physically, emotionally, or socially. Students with disabilities or difficult home lives may face added risk. Your understanding and support can make a big difference in their lives. Characteristics of a vulnerable child. Children are defined as being vulnerable in the following situations: orphaned by the death of one or both parents, abandoned by parents, living in extreme poverty, living with a disability, affected by armed conflicts, abused by parents or their caregivers, malnourished due to extreme poverty, HIV positive. Those are marginalized, stigmatized, or even discriminated against. Children are especially vulnerable when they experience things like abuse, loss, poverty, or discrimination. Being aware of these risks helps you respond with empathy and care. Tips for paras. Allow your student to be as independent as possible. Spend most of the time asking questions, listening, writing, and helping students think for themselves. Be sensitive to the existence of emotional or psychological problems. Bring them to the attention of the student's IEP manager, school principal, or social worker. One of the most important things that you can do as a paraprofessional is to encourage student independence. It can be tempting to step in and help, especially if you're someone who likes to stay busy. But helping too much, too quickly can lead students to develop what's called learned helplessness. That's when students begin to rely on others to do things for them, even when they're capable of doing it themselves. And let's be honest, students catch on fast. They might think, if I sit here long enough, you'll just do it for me. That's human nature. We all like to be pampered from time to time, but our job is to help students become independent and self-sufficient as possible. Here are ways to support that. Don't automatically tell students the answer or repeat directions for them. Encourage them to be responsible for listening the first time. Instead of giving instructions again, ask questions to check what they understood. Let them try first, even if they make mistakes, and then offer help if needed. Always keep in mind, we're not just helping students succeed today, we're setting them up for a successful future. Tips for paras continued. Be patient and reinforce positively when a goal is met. Progress may sometimes be slow, but always recognize the accomplishment. Be sensitive in communicating with your students. More important, be a careful listener. Don't stereotype your students. Each student is different. One of the simplest and most powerful tools you have as a paraprofessional is praise. And when used efficiently, it can help shape student behavior in positive ways. Be sure to praise all students and give them regular, specific feedback. Positive reinforcement encourages positive behaviors to happen again, but keep in mind, avoid giving praise consistently without a clear reason. If students hear generic praise all the time, it starts to lose its impact. For example, instead of saying, "Good job," over and over, try something more specific like, "I noticed you stayed focused for the entire activity. Great work." Also, vary your praise. Using the same phrases repeatedly, like "awesome" or "great job," can start to feel routine and lose value. Try mixing it up with different words and tones that match the student's effort and situation. When praise is used thoughtfully and sincerely, it helps students feel seen, valued, and motivated. Working for the same purpose. We want to create lifelong learners who can manage themselves to the best of their ability and be a contributing member to their community. We are all working toward the same goal, helping students become lifelong learners and contributing members of their communities. Your role is essential in helping them reach that goal. Thank you. Thank you for joining this session, and most importantly, thank you for the incredible work you do every day. Your efforts truly make a difference.